Episode 2. Emerald Darkness. 46 hours until Parallax arrived. Bruce hadn't slept. The ring sustained him, converting willpower into physical energy with an efficiency that should have been impossible. He'd spent the time productively, studying every scrap of information the ring's database contained about Parallax, the Guardians, the history of the Green Lantern Corps. What he found disturbed him. They lied. Bruce pulled up holographic displays in the cave, green constructs forming charts and timelines from the ring's memory banks. For 3 billion years, the Guardians told their lanterns that fear was the enemy of will, that the yellow impurity, the weakness to yellow light, was a flaw in the ring's design. Alfred set a cup of tea beside him, pointedly ignored. "And the truth, sir?" "The truth is that Parallax was never just a prisoner in the central battery. It was a component. The Guardians used its power to create the green light in the first place. Will and fear, bound together so tightly that separating them would destroy both." That seems rather significant information to omit. It's worse than that. Bruce manipulated the display, showing energy readings from the last 12 hours. The ring's been doing its own analysis. Parallax isn't escaping from Oa. It's being released. Someone or something is systematically weakening the containment. From inside the core, from inside the Guardians themselves. Bruce's jaw tightened. One of them has been corrupted, maybe more than one, and they're engineering a scenario where Parallax arrives on Earth at full power. To what end? "I don't know yet." Bruce looked at his ring. "But I intend to find out." The cave's sensors chimed. Incoming teleportation signature. Owen origin. Bruce stood as green light coalesced into a figure he didn't recognize. Humanoid, female, with pink skin and a uniform that marked her as a fellow lantern. Her expression was urgent. "Bruce Wayne of Earth. I am Katma Tui, Lantern of Sector 1417. I come with a warning." "I'm listening." "The Guardians have issued orders for your immediate detention and transport to Oa. They claim your ring selection was anomalous, that you must be evaluated before being permitted to serve." Detention. Bruce's voice was flat. With Parallax less than 2 days out, the timing is not coincidental. Katma's eyes darted to the cave's entrance, checking for pursuit. There is a faction within the Guardians who have been waiting for this moment. They believe Earth's destruction will serve as a necessary lesson. A lesson in what? Fear. Katma stepped closer, lowering her voice. "The core has become complacent, they say. Too confident. Too willing to believe that will alone can overcome all obstacles. Parallax's release is intended to remind the universe that fear is still the dominant force in existence." Bruce processed this. Some of the Guardians want Earth to fall. Some of the Guardians have been corrupted by Parallax for longer than you can imagine. The entity's prison was never one way. It has been whispering to them for eons, slowly turning their wisdom into paranoia, their caution into nihilism. "Why are you telling me this?" Katma's ring flared. "Because Abin Sur was my mentor, my friend, and his final act was choosing you, not any of the established lanterns, not the obvious candidates, but a human who has somehow learned to make fear serve will rather than oppose it." She met his eyes. "He believed you could do what no other lantern has done. Face Parallax directly and win. Not by fighting fear, but by understanding it." "And if he was wrong?" "Then Earth dies, the core falls, and Parallax consumes the universe." Katma's smile was grim. "The stakes have always been this high, Bruce Wayne. Abin Sur simply refused to pretend otherwise." The summons came an hour later. 6 green lanterns materialized in the cave, led by a massive figure Bruce recognized from the ring's database. Kilowog, drill instructor of the Corps, legendary warrior, loyal to the Guardians beyond question. Bruce Wayne of Earth. Kilowog's voice was a rumble that shook stalactites loose from the ceiling. You are ordered to surrender your ring and accompany us to Oa for evaluation. This is not a request. Bruce stood in the center of the cave, alone. He'd sent Alfred to safety in the manor's panic room. Katmatui had vanished, her warning delivered. I decline. Kilowog's eyes narrowed. You don't get to decline, Poozer. The Guardian's word is law for every lantern. I'm not a lantern yet. You said it yourself. I haven't been evaluated. Bruce's ring pulsed in response to his rising will. And I'm not leaving Earth with parallax 44 hours out. That's not your concern anymore. It became my concern when Abin Sur died giving me this ring. Bruce shifted into a combat stance, muscle memory from decades of martial arts training, adapting instinctively to powers he'd possessed for less than a day. He chose me specifically. He saw something in my mind that convinced him I could face parallax. Abin Sur was compromised, another lantern said. Boudica, according to the ring's identification. His fear of parallax had driven him to irrational decisions. Whatever he saw in you was a symptom of his madness. Was it? Bruce looked at each of them in turn. Or was it clarity? He knew something was wrong with the Guardians. He was running to warn Earth when parallax caught him. Ask yourselves why the entity bothered killing one lantern when it's supposedly still imprisoned on Oa. The lanterns exchanged glances. He's stalling, Boudica growled. Take him. 6 rings fired simultaneously. Bruce moved. The constructs they created were efficient, military. Chains, cages, restraining fields. Standard suppression tactics for a rogue lantern. They would have worked on almost anyone. Bruce Wayne wasn't almost anyone. He'd spent 30 years learning to fight opponents stronger than him, faster than him, more numerous than him. The ring was new, but strategy was eternal. His first construct wasn't a weapon. It was a cloud of darkness, pure black within emerald light, impossible according to conventional ring physics, but perfectly reasonable to a mind that had weaponized shadow for decades. It filled the cave, blinding the attacking lanterns, disrupting their construct's targeting. In the darkness, Bruce was home. He moved through the chaos like a ghost, ring creating not fists or hammers, but precision tools. A razor-thin blade that severed Boudica's construct at its weakest point. A mirror that reflected Tomar Ray's energy beam back at its source. A gravity well that pulled 3 lanterns together and tangled their attacks into useless knots. And beneath it all, the fear. Bruce had studied fear his entire life. He knew its signatures, its textures, its countless variations. And the ring let him project that understanding, let him reach into the minds of his attackers and find the terrors they kept locked away. Kilowog suddenly found himself back on Bolovac's Vic, watching his entire species die. Boudica faced the warriors who had killed her family when she was a child. Tomar Ree confronted his greatest failure, Krypton, which he'd been unable to save. They didn't collapse. They were too well trained for that. But they hesitated, just for a moment. And that moment was all Bruce needed. When the darkness cleared, 6 green lanterns hung suspended in individual containment spheres, their rings neutralized by constructs that somehow operated on frequencies their powers couldn't counter. Bruce Wayne stood in the center of the cave, breathing slightly heavier than normal. Ring blazing with light that had shifted from pure green to something darker. Something with veins of gold running through it. I'm not your enemy, he said quietly. But I will not be taken. Not while my world is in danger. Kilowog's voice came through the containment sphere, grudgingly impressed. How did you do that? That darkness. No lantern has ever created black light, because no lantern has ever understood that darkness isn't the absence of will. It's will applied to concealment rather than illumination. Bruce released the spheres, letting the lanterns drift to the cave floor. I'm not fighting the ring's nature. I'm expanding it. The Guardians won't let this stand, Boudica said, rubbing her wrists where construct chains had held her. You've assaulted 6 lanterns. That's a demonstration. Bruce cut her off. Now go back to Oa. Tell your guardians what you saw. Tell them that when Parallax arrives, I'll be the one facing it, not as their servant, but as Earth's defender. They can either help me or stay out of the way. And if they send more lanterns? Bruce's eyes were hidden by the cowl, but his voice carried absolute certainty. I've beaten everyone they can send, and if they force me to prove it, the golden veins in his ring's light pulsed brighter. They won't like what I've become. 20 hours until Parallax arrived. Bruce stood on the roof of Wayne Tower, watching Gotham sprawl beneath him like a living organism of light and shadow. The city was quieter than usual. News had leaked about the coming threat, vague reports of cosmic events that had people staying home, watching the skies with primitive fear. You shouldn't have let them go. The voice came from behind him. Bruce didn't turn. Sinestro. A figure descended from the darkness, wrapped in yellow light that made Bruce's ring flare defensively. The face was familiar from the ring's database. Hawkish features, cruel smile, eyes that had seen empires rise and fall. I've been watching you, Bruce Wayne. Sinestro landed on the rooftop, keeping careful distance. Watching you with great interest. You're supposed to be imprisoned on Cord. Prisons are for those who lack will. Sinestro smiled. I've been free for some time. Free to observe how the Guardian's grand experiment rots from within. Free to watch Parallax stir in its cage. And free to find you. What do you want? To offer you something the Guardians never will. Sinestro raised his own ring, yellow, pulsing with fear energy. The truth. Bruce's construct defenses tightened. I know the truth. Parallax was used to create the green light. The Guardians lied about its nature. That's the surface truth. The deeper truth is this. Parallax didn't just provide power for the core. It provided balance. Will without fear is arrogance. Fear without will is paralysis. For 3 billion years, the Guardians maintained that balance by keeping Parallax contained but connected. Sinestro stepped closer, yellow light mixing with green in ways that should have been catastrophic, but somehow weren't. Now the balance is broken. Parallax is breaking free not because someone released it, but because the Guardians tried to sever the connection. They wanted pure will, untainted by fear. And in doing so, they made fear so hungry that nothing can contain it. Why tell me this? Because you understand what they never did. Sinestro's voice held something almost like respect. You don't fight fear. You use it. You've built your entire existence around making terror serve justice. He extended his hand, and the yellow ring on his finger pulsed. Join me, Bruce Wayne. Not as a servant, as a partner. Together we can face Parallax, not as enemies of fear, but as its masters. We can save your world and remake the core into something that actually works. Bruce looked at the yellow ring. He looked at his own ring, with its golden veins growing more prominent by the hour. He looked at Gotham, sprawled beneath him like a patient waiting for medicine it didn't know it needed. You're not wrong about the balance, Bruce said finally. Will and fear do need each other. Sinestro's smile widened. But you're wrong about the solution. Bruce's ring flared, and the golden veins suddenly blazed emerald again, brighter than before. Fear isn't something to master or serve. It's something to transform. Not into willpower, into courage. He faced Sinestro directly, and his construct defenses shifted into something the former Lantern had never seen. A perfect hybrid of green and gold that somehow expressed neither will nor fear, but something transcendent. Abin-Sur didn't choose me because I'm good at using fear. He chose me because I'm the only person who's ever beaten it completely. Every night for 30 years, I've walked into the darkness and come out stronger. Not because I'm fearless, because I feel everything and do it anyway. Bruce's voice hardened. That's what the Guardians forgot. That's what you never understood. The opposite of fear isn't will. It's choice. And I choose to be more than what either of you want me to be. Sinestro's expression shifted from respect to something colder. A pity. You would have been magnificent. I still will be. Bruce raised his ring. Just not for you. The yellow lantern vanished in a flash of fear light, but his voice echoed behind him. We'll see each other again, Bruce Wayne. When Parallax arrives, you'll understand that some fears can't be overcome, only embraced. Then he was gone, and Bruce was alone on the rooftop, his ring pulsing with colors that shouldn't have been possible. Interesting, the ring's voice whispered. You have achieved something that has not occurred in 3.2 billion years of core history. What's that? You have created a new light. Neither green nor yellow, but something between. The Guardians will be concerned. Add it to the list. Bruce looked up at the sky, where something darker than space was beginning to blot out the stars. Parallax is early. Confirmed. Entity arrival in approximately 4 hours. 4 hours, not 20. Parallax had accelerated its approach, drawn by the energy Bruce had been generating, drawn by the new light he'd created. Bruce Wayne, the ring said. And for the first time, its voice held something like urgency. There is something you should know about the light you have manifested. Tell me. It is not new. It is ancient. It existed before the green light, before the yellow, before the Guardians themselves. It is the original light from which all others were born. What's it called? The ring was silent for a long moment. It has no name. But in the oldest records, in texts the Guardians believed destroyed, it was sometimes called the light of the first choice. It appeared once before, 4 billion years ago, when the first sentient being faced the first moment of fear and decided to act anyway. The Guardians split it into green and yellow because they believed it was too powerful for any single being to wield. They were terrified of what it could do. Bruce looked at his ring, at the swirling hybrid of emerald and gold, and now it's back. Now it's back. In you. And Parallax knows. That's why it's coming early, Bruce Wayne. It's not coming to destroy Earth. It's coming to destroy you. Before you become something that can destroy it. High above Gotham, the first tendrils of yellow light began to snake through the atmosphere. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the oldest fear in the universe screamed Bruce Wayne's name.